Hello, my name is Father Funk. I've been a full-time DJ and producer for 5 years now, and on this channel, as well as sharing my music, I've been sharing some of the knowledge and skills that I've learned along the way. I've been wanting to do a top 5 production tips video for some time, but I couldn't actually narrow it down to 5, so here are my top 7 tips for music producers. Tip number 1. Tip number 1 is, start with solid sounds. A good mixdown is a lot like building a house. Hold on a minute. I think you mean getting a good mixdown. Idiot. You need to build it on solid foundations or it just isn't going to work. And don't be afraid to use sample packs, especially if you're not at the stage where you can synthesize your own sounds from scratch. It's going to be a lot better to use some good quality samples. Splice is a great option for this, but I still like to buy full sample packs as I feel like I get a lot more use out of them this way. Tip number 2. Have a strong idea or theme to begin with. It's really important to have some direction when writing music. Having a musical or thematic idea will make the writing process so much easier as you will already have a basic framework. For example, my album Funk Step, the title alone sets the tone for exactly how the album should sound. And this is of course a great starting point. Even if you don't end up realizing your original idea, just having some direction will be enough to get the ball rolling. Tip number 3. Experiment with different genres. You can easily get stuck in a rut, or get bored of making the same style. That's why it's really important to experiment with different genres of music. Not only will this keep things fresh, but you will also learn new techniques that you can apply to your future productions. Tip number 4. Arrange the track as quickly as possible. We've all been there. You've written a great 8-bar loop, and you're stuck on what to do next. So you call it a day, and years later, it's still sat on your hard drive. This is why it's so important to flesh out a basic arrangement as soon as possible. Even if it sucks, you can always go back and change it later. Seeing your loop in the context of an arrangement and hearing it back will make it so much easier to make decisions. I also think it's very hard to get back into the vibe of a song after leaving it for such a long time, so I try my best to make as much progress as possible in the first session, especially when working with other people. Tip number 5. This is probably the most important tip I can give you. So many classic tracks are just a drum beat and a bass line, so don't overcomplicate it, especially the drop. The reason early dub music, which is the foundation of modern dance music, is so heavy is because the bass line has so much room to breathe. Sure, go a bit more crazy in the build-ups and the breakdowns, but make your drop a bit more stripped back and it will hit a lot harder. It's also so much easier to mix down a track when you're working with a few key elements rather than 100 different layers. Tip number 6. Don't get too hung up on one song. Sometimes the track you're making just sucks. And that's fine, we can't all make bangers every day. If something isn't working, just move on and start something fresh. You'll learn something new with every single track you make, so you might as well make as many tracks as possible. Tip number 7. Don't watch so many YouTube videos. Yes, this might sound ridiculous, but watching tutorials is no replacement for actually practicing your craft. I'm guilty of this too. Sure, there are some great tutorials out there, and there are some great tips you can learn from incredible producers all over the world. But until you start applying these tips and honing your skills, you're not actually going to get any better. I also think a lot of the appeal of YouTube is watching people do stuff that you wish that you could do. So don't fall into that trap. But that might be a bit too deep for this video. So those are my top 7 tips for music producers. Please feel free to share your tips in the comments, as I'd love to hear them. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me in the future. Peace out.